Welcome to the Rise Inside podcast, hosted by Justin Starbird and powered by Rise Robotics. Listen as host Justin talks to experts from the Rise team about topics relating to mechanical engineering, industrial design, commercialization, and innovation. True collaborations work when ideas are integrated at inception to solve significant problems. Rise Inside brings together how the team continues to work with great folks to commercialize ideas. You're listening to the Rise Inside podcast. Here's your host, Justin Starbird.
Welcome back to Rise Inside. My name is Justin Starbird, and today I am thrilled to welcome two guests to the podcast. Welcome back Kurt Walker from Anthony Liftgates and Tom Bagwell from Peterson Trucks. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, really happy to have both of you on. We've got a unique partnership between the three companies, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. But before we jump into that, Kurt, tell me a little bit about Anthony Liftgates and what your role there is.
Yeah, Anthony Liftgates is a family-owned liftgate manufacturer, and we sell our own stuff as well. And we are based in Pontiac, Illinois. My role originally started out in more of sales and marketing, and it's gradually sort of turned into a product management role. The way I think of what I do, wear a lot of different hats, but I just think of my role as keeping the company busy 5 to 10 years out. So that's what I'm trying to do most of the time.
That's a good outlook. We always want to keep a healthy pipeline. Tom, tell me a little bit about Peterson Trucks and your role there.
Sure. My name is Tom Bagwell. I'm the Executive Vice President of Peterson Trucks. Been here about 20 years. And, Peterson Trucks is, we have 10 locations. We're an international dealer that also runs Ideal Lease. And we're owned by the cat dealer, Peterson Cat, which has been around for 85 years. And, our locations, Oregon, California. Our cat store has some in Southern Washington. And it's just a really, we're still growing. 85 years into this, we're still growing.
What is the secret to success, you think?
You want Kurt to take that one?
Well, you guys have both come from companies that have been around for a long time, and I think it's a pretty neat. Coming from the Rise side, we're relatively new in terms of looking at the generational companies that each of you come from. So it would be, that wasn't necessarily on my list of things to talk about today, but actually it's a real important, I think, as we look forward to some of this growth.
Sure. I'll start off with that one. At Peterson, it's what attracted me. I was a customer for 6 years before I came aboard, and it's 100%. It's the culture and the people. You can go from company to company, but what happens is the most important thing is how people treat each other and how well and engaged the people are in terms of doing good stuff. And at Peterson, it goes back to, I would say, our vision, which is, we in good times, between tractors and our generator division, which is power systems and trucks. In good times, we build infrastructure. And in challenging times, like wildfires and brownouts and all that kind of stuff, we protect infrastructure. So it's having a sense of purpose in what we do, learning how to treat each other great, hiring people that want to get stuff done. It's an incredible company.
That's really neat. Kurt, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Anthony's secret to success over the years, and I've given some thought to this a few times. A lot of companies focus singularly on profit, and I think when you're a smaller family-owned company, you don't have to do that. You get to make decisions that maybe maybe a little different than when your sole goal is to make profit. We want to make a great product. We like having happy customers, and we like treating people right. Like people, not like resources. And when you kind of balance all that together, obviously profitability is important, but we like making great products, and that's kind of what we focus on. And then let the money come after.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think that's one of the things that makes Peterson really connected with Anthony. It's not just about winning, winning on the financial line. It's also how you win.
Mhm.
So it's doing things the right way, and it's sustainable winning.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you both talk about, culture and the people. And, it's also come with some pretty incredible visionaries, before you. How do you look at innovation today versus maybe looking back over the years, the appetite for risk versus some of the reward coming from well-established companies? You want to jump on that, Kurt, and maybe start from your perspective?
So appetite for risk in terms of new innovations, huh?
Yeah, I mean, here I'm thinking, listening to you guys talk about, what makes you or what has made you successful. Of course, it's the people. Of course, it's the culture.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking it's also because, you've been at the forefront of innovation at different times that has spearheaded that growth.
Yeah. At Anthony, we've always kind of had a reputation for quality and innovation. It goes way back to even before it was really our family business. The Anthony name was synonymous with innovation in the hydraulic space for a really long time. That's kind of how we've always done it, is always looking for a better way to do something. And I think that's what we're doing right now. We see a pretty big shift coming. This whole electrification push seems to be the real deal this time, even though it's been talked about for 20 or 30 years. So we're kind of on the hunt for, how that's going to affect liftgates, and our appetite to take that on is larger, I would say, just because of the way the wind's blowing there.
Absolutely. And Tom, how has that affected your business?
Well, electrification is just innovation.
Innovation first.
Well, one thing I love about Peterson is our company has been innovators for a long time. Caterpillar was actually their first manufacturing plant was in San Leandro, California, where our headquarters is at.
Mm-hmm.
The Bay Area is, the innovation hub of the world for us, and that is our core territory. And what's really great about Peterson is, our founders, Howard Peterson and his brother Buster. Buster was a self-taught engineering genius. He actually developed during the labor shortage, during the late 30s, 40s, 50s. He created new machines for CAT, and we actually sold the patents to Caterpillar on how these machines would work in terms of how to build the California Aqueduct and the Shasta Dam and all the major projects that Peterson has been involved, from the Golden Gate Bridge to the Treasure Island. These are significant projects that really shaped the landscape of Northern California, and now what we're doing in Oregon. So when I came aboard here, there was already a history of innovation. I mean, I remember there was this one project we were at where we worked with a major contractor on the Benicia Bridge, where there was these fish that were being impacted by one of the bridge's retrofit designs for earthquakes. That they were pounding the pylons into the bedrock, and it was creating shock waves to killing the fish. And the customer worked with us, and we developed a bubble curtain. We put these large air compressors on a barge and basically created like a bubbler, like you'd see in a fish tank, that created an insulated air curtain that absorbed the shock waves of the pounding, so they can complete the bridge and have minimal impact on the fish. So when you work in a company where things are possible, then you start thinking about creative ways of solving problems, because at the end of the day, the number one thing for our innovation is trying to help our customers solve their problems.
Absolutely. That's at the key of it, at the core of it, rather. And it's the key to the people that you hire too, right? I mean, you're looking for problem solvers, not folks that are just out there checking boxes. And I think that makes it truly unique as well. In fact, our director of business development, Ken Gray, came from Caterpillar and was one of their first chief innovation directors. So, we've been able to see some of that firsthand as well, in addition to incredible engineering that goes into some of these projects. And with that, partnerships plays a big role in the success of a company as well, making sure that you're partnering with the right companies that share values, that share common goals, and are looking at the future similarly. I'll start with you, Tom. How do you go about identifying the right partnerships as you look to expand your reach and your scope of work?
Well, I mean, what's great about America is there's no end to what you can do here, right? I mean, as long as you're following the basic rules, and while there seems to be a lot of them, there's still tremendous freedom to do things. So what we look for a partnership is someone you can trust. So who's been around, who, when you look in their eyes and you hear their words, you know that they are filled with integrity and will follow through, right? So trust is the foundation of every business relationship. And going around with Anthony, so the first part is, if I don't trust you, we don't trust you, we had bad dealings, or we felt like there was an issue, those are non-starting conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't even engage. But guess what? What's also great about the United States is there's lots of people that have integrity and lots of people that do that. So what makes one thing we look for, and what we saw in Anthony was, guess what? There's a there in terms of who they are, what they stand for, the products they build, and their I would say the openness and transparency of the conversations we have in terms of how do we make it work for both of us? Mm-hmm. And so rather than sort of keeping like a hands-off, a distance thing about saying, well, I'm not going to show you my cards, that just slows down partnerships. I go in and talking to the Walker family and going in there, it's like, hey, here's what we're up against, here's what we need, and here's what we can do. Does it work for you? And we have conversations back and forth without thinking that I can't win unless Anthony wins.
Right.
And I feel that Anthony has the same view with Peterson. They can't win unless we win. And when you start enrolling customers into this equation, which is how can any business, especially a business like ours and Anthony's, there's only a certain amount of truck dealers. They're getting smaller every year, right? They're getting larger and larger. How can you not treat people fantastic?
That's true. Yeah,
you have to treat people amazing because they'll buy from you tomorrow and the next day and the next day, and that's where business becomes fun. That's where business is fun, not work.
Right. Well, that's what they say, right? You do business with people like, and trust. And
I love the Walker family. I love going and visiting them and talking to them. It is not like, to me, it's not like, oh, I got to have a vendor visit. Vendor visit. That sounds like a transaction. I'm not interested in transaction. I'm interested in long-term relationships.
That's great.
Appreciate that.
Well, and so Kurt, you go through a similar vetting process. Tell us a little bit about how, you look at partnerships and what that's meant to Anthony.
No, I would echo the exact same sentiment. We've had a great working relationship with Peterson, and I think we look for the same thing when we were initially talking to the Rise folks. And I think we have the same level of trust with both.
That's great. And so, you come at it from somewhat of a unique perspective too, though, Kurt, in that, some of your partnerships are, turn around and then impact the likes of Peterson. I'm thinking specifically about Rise and how, that this is, changing your company a little bit, and some of what we're doing together.
Yeah.
How is that? How has that helped in conversations when you talk to your other partners, and what has that done for you guys?
I'm not sure I follow the question.
So, with your partnership with Rise, of course, it is also mutually beneficial. And I would say, from our perspective, echoing what Tom said, if Anthony Liftgates is successful, that means Rise is successful. How does your approach to this partnership? How does that translate to success with partnerships with a company like Peterson?
Yeah. Pretty early on, Rise has been pretty adamant about saying we don't win unless Anthony wins, and they've been very clear about that. Obviously, there's other customers they're getting involved with, but they stay laser focused on getting our product to market, and we do as well. And what that will ultimately translate to is our ability to benefit our customers by delivering a better liftgate. So it plays right through
absolutely.
Partner relationship.
I'm just trying to think through that with you, and I think obviously there's a lot of benefit to both sides, especially Tom, to your point, you're putting your heads together to see success. You're trying not to leave the cards close to the vest, because by leaving your ace sometimes you miss out on opportunities to go deeper and wider in sales and marketing. As you go about looking at the way in which the partnerships may aid in your success and innovation, how do you go about looking at the sales and marketing, as you bring on new product lines and put new products out there?
Well, as a distributor of the products, we partner with manufacturers that we believe are going to create and have a sustainable pipeline of products that meet our customers' needs. And in the Bay Area and Portland and, the places in between, we go from everything from having dense inner city deliveries like San Francisco or downtown Portland to wide open country and logging country in Central Oregon. So our challenge on this is trying to keep my team to understand and share with us what the customers are up against in terms of trying to do their job. So the thing that one thing that we've done is, with Navistar, in terms of how do we align with the manufacturer, like Navistar's come out with this thing called on-command connection, which basically, think of it as like the version of GM OnStar.
Yep.
Have you ever seen that? Where we're starting to call up customers and bring in the parts before they know something's wrong with the truck. So just based on algorithms going on in terms of the, how the transmission sensors are talking to the engine sensors, and with big data crunching, being able to go out there and say, okay, within the next 3 months, 6 months, there's a 70% chance that this is going to be a problem.
Sure.
And so rather than wait for it to be a problem, like show up at the dealership and your truck's broken, we're going out there and say, let's make sure we have the parts here, because that customer can't get down. That customer has to be up and running. So one of the things that I would say originally, when I saw Anthony on, it was like, the whole thing about their innovation, their history of innovation, which mirrored Peterson's history of innovation, that our combined abilities to go out and meet customer requirements that continue to evolve. You can't just add that to a company. It's part of the DNA of a company.
Sure. Yeah. Like the fabric of their being, right? I mean, the attentiveness and the ability to listen to customers and actually put that into something.
And in our dealer principle, he talks about, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
And it's really about a mindset about how do we get better? How do we get stronger? How do we get faster? How do we just how do we make things better for each of the stakeholders? And that includes the community and our customers and our partners.
Now, do you do joint venture stuff like joint marketing efforts with say Navistar or others?
Yeah.
Or and how do you go about some of that planning and execution and strategy?
Well, part of it is just what we're trying to do with like, here's a mutual customer, because I know Goodwill Industries out in the Bay Area, they run Anthony Liftgates with our, they run through our company, Idealease. And one thing we do, I always worried about, the people just having, customer empathy. I think that's central to understanding what we have to do to align and get better for our customers, is truly understand what they're up against. And so when we started meeting some of these nonprofits, like I met Mimi Silbert from Delancey Street Foundation, who runs an incredible organization that is now in multiple parts of the US, where they basically take people off the street and teach them job skills while giving them room and board and medical care. And there's just some amazingly incredible things. And guess what? The story hardly ever gets told. You're only told about how ain't it awful every day on the news.
Right.
So, but there's
a lot of success stories that follow that up.
Because guess what? People are like, well, that sounds good. I want to know how I'm going to die tomorrow. Right. So the issue becomes on this is when we looked at nonprofits, and I'm there going, boy, they don't have the strongest negotiators on the block. And my challenge on it, at least from doing right by the community, is focusing on why aren't they getting our best deal? So I actually go back to, whether it's Anthony or Navistar or whatever, and say, is that your best deal for these nonprofits? Because when you're dead and you're at St. Peter's gates, are you going to, you want St. Peter to look at your ledger and say, okay, you charge nonprofits, not your best deal. What kind of human being are you? And to me, I want us to be able to say we're doing good. And it also helps our employees realize we're a good company doing good things. And that partnership of aligning about what our interests are, what our goals are, how we do business, and making sure that we don't put undue risk of expectations on Anthony. Like, we're sharing like, here's what we need, so that everyone can plan. It's about I would say the benefit is about making sure that we both win, and that the decisions we make impact not only companies' futures, but people's lives.
Yeah. Kurt, do you have anything you wanted to add to that or echo?
Just that we share the same sentiment. We do like to just do right by our customers. That's when a customer comes to us with a request, I really like to be able to say, yes, we can do that. It frustrates me when we can't. And I think that mindset, I try to maintain it as much as I can to keep the company moving forward.
And I want to share something that when we were starting this, I would say deepening our partnership over the last few years, we had it. We actually, stepped up on Anthony's behalf and advocated for one of our brethren down in another part of the state to order Anthony Liftgates as part of a customer we both shared. And that they were a little bit unsure because, guess what? It's about trust. It's all about trust.
Yep.
And they trusted us, and they acquiesced, and they did it, and they had problems. And the customer called us up, our friend called us up and said, hey, this is this, and this isn't working, and I shouldn't have done this. And I didn't even what was amazing is I didn't even have to ask. And Anthony flew down, on their own dime, looked at it, and we then realized it wasn't their gate at all. It was how it was installed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was an installation error, not a product error.
Sure.
And the best part is, and here's the thing, this is where Anthony earned extra kudos. They didn't come back to me and said, I got $1,000 flight. How do you want to pay?
Yeah.
It was just like that, because they took one for the team. I so appreciated that level of service and speed. It's not like I had to talk them into it. They volunteered.
Yeah.
And we're on the plane. I'm like, holy cow, what? How? And when I look back, I'm there going, that just gives me more faith and trust in them.
Great.
Thank you. That's how we try to do business.
Well, and that's how we try to do business, and hopefully that bubbles up to you, Kurt, and then through to you, Tom, as we continue down this path to work together as well. So tell me, guys, what's next? What's on the horizon for Peterson and Anthony?
Well, I'll just start this one because it's going to absolutely affect Anthony, and I'm very excited about what that would look like. I don't know if you ever heard of an electric vehicle, but there's their counterpart called an electric truck. Yeah. So we have 3 electric trucks coming in to California and Oregon in the next 120 days. And there's also there'll be our demo vehicles. What's interesting is Navistar actually has the capacity to build and sell these trucks in 2022. This isn't a next year project. It is a this year project.
Yep. And
we're at the hub in the Bay Area in terms of charging stations and that kind of stuff, where what we have to do is this is going to be a case study in terms of how technology rolls out. Because right now, if you just go off of the economics aren't there yet. Mm-hmm. They will be there. They'll be there on 2 ways. One, the cost of running diesel trucks is going to continue to increase as fuel costs increase, and also as sort of the expectations of lower emissions and NOx and other things that are set forth by CARB and the EPA are going to drive diesel costs higher. So what's going to happen is, as Trayton, which is owns Navistar, which is basically runs International Trucks, as they're building battery plants in Europe. I mean, this is as 75%. I may have my numbers off, but I think 75% of the medium duty trucks in California are going to be electric by 2035. That's
awesome.
Yeah, that's unbelievably aggressive, and it's going to be incredible, because right now they go about 130 miles. The challenge is, everyone I talked to said, do you think that these trucks will be limited to 130 miles 5 years from now? And no one says, no, they're going to be longer.
Yeah.
And what about the battery? Is it going to take 2 hours to charge a battery? No, it's going to be shorter.
Yeah.
So you just look at that. That's the American spirit, right?
Yeah.
Which is, we don't know how to do it, but everyone knows that we'll figure it out.
Right. Yeah. Hey, that's one of the cool things about being here is that, that's, constantly surrounded by a team of people that you never take no for an answer, and have been at this for literally years to figure it out.
Yeah. And so the thing that I think is part of the American spirit is definitely very, very strong, I would say, within Peterson, Anthony, the Bay Area, and others like Rise, is the whole thing of, we can't do it yet. And it's those 3 little letters, YET, that is the genesis of innovation.
Yeah, it's coming.
yeah, it is not today, tomorrow. Right. So just having that mindset, because guess what? If you don't think it's going to happen, it'll never happen.
Right.
And you're going to be run over by the economy.
Well, it doesn't.
No.
Elon Musk says, take your 10-year plan and see if you can do it in 6 months. Even if you can't, you're way up. You're significantly further along than if you had said you're going to do it in 10 years.
Yeah, and that's the challenge, right? So, what do people fear? People fear the unknown, and so that stops people from taking any steps. Who's going to get run over? The people who don't get out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
The people who make things happen, those are going to ones who are going to shape the future. The ones that are like, oh, I don't know, and they become nervous Nellies and steady Eddies. Well, I'm sorry, capitalism works.
Yep. Kurt, what is on the horizon for Anthony Liftgates?
This RISE project is honestly front of mind for me. We've got some other cool stuff going on, but I'm excited about this, and it goes right in line with what Tom was saying about electric vehicles. We didn't start this project with EVs specifically in mind, but the more we learn about how quickly that seems to be coming, it just seems like it's that much better. Yep. Because this thing's great on a diesel truck, but it's like it's a no-brainer on an electric truck to try to extend the range of it. So that's what we're excited about right now.
I need 3. Just saying.
Well, not today, tomorrow.
That's right. Well, guys, I'm really thankful to have had you on, and Tom, get to meet you and get to hang out with you today. Kurt, you're our first, you're our only, I think you're our only 2-time guest. So thank you for joining me today as well.
Thanks for having me.
You have been listening to the Rise Inside podcast, presented by Rise Robotics. On behalf of our guest today and host Justin Starbird, thank you for listening. Please share your feedback on our LinkedIn page, linkedin.com/company/rise-robotics.